We're snorting cap rates and shooting up cash flow here at Deal Junkies. Welcome back to Deal Junkies. We are back in the studio with Dane Fitch. Little Dane is not here with us, so we can call him that. He left. He had to go potty. He had to go back to class. All right, we got Mike Nuss, Trevor Howard. I'm Gabe Johansson. We're here with a follow-up episode with Dane Fitch. We want to talk about challenges, struggles, pitfalls. Trevor's favorite topic. How to avoid some of these things as we get into short-term rental, or maybe we'll even talk a little bit about hard money lending. So Dane, you're with Legacy Lending. You're a lender, hard money lender. Dane is also he's our go-to for all things short-term rental, Airbnb. You've heard it called before. So Trevor's going to take over on this episode because I think, what do you call it? Is he a masochist or whatever?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. He loves
sadist.
He loves to hear about pain.
I think you learn the most from those experiences, so they're the most helpful. And I learned early on, I didn't listen to your stories of your pain, you told me. And then
My stories?
Yeah, you losing 2.1.
You listened.
No, you think you can learn it by hearing it. That's the problem.
No, I think I can now because I take the advice. I learned from you. You're like, don't do this. I'm like, whatever. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Why? Because I'm old?
Yeah.
So you can only learn by hearing if you've actually felt what someone tried to teach you because you didn't learn it by hearing?
No, the difference was I didn't respect Gabe's opinion, but I really expect Dane's opinion. So I will believe what Dane tells me and take it to heart.
Once it came true, what I told Trevor not to do,
now
and he felt the pain, then he believed me.
Yeah. Well, it's because now every time you rehear it, you relive that pain. You feel it all over again, and that actually changes you so much.
PTSD is good for the soul?
It's something. And I think that's the difference between entrepreneurs and W-2 workers, is the moment like W-2 workers feel any kind of that pain, they scream back and they go back to their W-2 job where it's, and that's great. That's totally fine. If you know what you are, it's just the guys like us, we can't, it's more painful to go back. And so we just have to break through the pain, and that's how you grow. That's exactly.
Which is, it's not painful. It's just part of being who you are.
And you normalize it. So someone was asking me a couple of weeks ago, how do you, one of my friends, how do you not just stress out over this? And I'm like, I've normalized this. What is, this thing that would seem like a really big problem to you, is just, it's not that big. I've already been through it before.
You're desensitized a little because you've made it through to the other end.
I just had an aha moment. Yes, that's true. When I couldn't sleep at night, it's because I had a ceiling to how I could work my way through the problem, because I didn't control my future, right? So now it's not that there's a normalization there. But it's really peaceful to sleep at night when you know you have the ability to work through, because you don't have a ceiling, because you can do what's necessary to get through.
Yeah, you can visualize the path. That you may not be through there yet, but you can visualize.
So your ceiling, you're saying there was no light at the end of the tunnel?
Exactly.
And now when you have a problem, you're like, this sucks, but I know I'll get through it.
Being an entrepreneur is not a hopeless state. When you're a W-2, you have a cap. You have less, getting beyond that is beyond hope, right?
And we recognize failure as lessons.
Yeah.
It's the way we learn.
Yeah.
Through pain.
Okay, so you had some rough Airbnbs, right, that you were learning from and going through. Do you want to explain?
Sure.
So
it kind of stinks too, because we were not doing great with our fix and flip business anymore. Fix and flips ebb and flow with deal flow, right? How you get your deals. We touched on a couple things of trying to get deals by off market. We just never dedicated enough time and energy and resources to finding off market deals and getting a reliable way to do it. So we're always, word of mouth, wholesalers, a little bit on our own, but nothing could reliably come through. So we couldn't count on that income. And so we kind of doubled down on Airbnbs because we were so successful with our first 4, and they were actually helping a lot of some of the mistakes we were making on our fix and flip. So when these people came to us with all this money, we were worried, oh my gosh, we have to use it, because if we don't, they're going to go run off and give it to a different investor. So there was that fear of well, we've got to be able to use it, and not really thinking about how much, how difficult things were,
Has your mindset changed since then? Because money is one of the only things that's actually closest to unlimited that there is.
Well, time is money.
Yeah.
One of my favorite. So one of these. Did you guys ever see that show? Is it called In Time? Oh, it's got who's the singer, the Disney singer, where they've got like the time on their wrist.
Oh yeah,
right
yeah, yeah.
there.
Oh yes.
I love that. If I ever go back to teaching,
Isn't that Justin Timberlake?
Justin
Yeah,
Timberlake,
it is.
yes, and I can't remember.
That's
the
your
name of the
Disney
movie.
singer?
No, it's something.
I just saw a mugshot of him the other day.
Where did Disney come at? Like,
No, In Time. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In Time, is that it?
It's a good movie.
it is.
Have you
I
seen
like
it, Mike?
I have. Yeah. Yeah,
It's so good.
He's got like a
It's-
clock
Yeah.
built into his
He's
arm.
playing poker and he lets it get all the way down to the
It's like
end.
credits.
Yeah.
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 But it's like such a good examination of like what money is. Money is time, and time is money. And if I ever go back to teaching, like I want to teach an entrepreneurial class like that for juniors and seniors, 101, 102. I already have all the tech. We're going to read, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We're going to do an end of group project where we build a business together and have to run that business, and we fail or succeed. I've got it. And it's, but one of the things I want to do is watch that movie because I think it's so good to see. There's like time and money. Like I'm very different than you. I was actually thinking about this earlier. And I think Mike, you guys are the same, where we have kids, we have family, and I cannot just wake up at 6 a.m. and go to bed at 2 a.m. working the whole time. Sometimes I would like to, but I can't. I have responsibilities to them. And now my kids are 11, 9, and 5. I did my sprint. Whatever I made from that sprint, my kids are now at the age where their memories are solid. I don't want them to remember the dad that was gone all the time, or that's was there but wasn't there, kind of a thing. And so there's a little bit of like remorse of like, well, these last 6 years, I've definitely done some cool stuff. I've made a lot of mistakes, but the next 6 years, I cannot work like I worked in the first 6 years. So I just have to be more time effective.
I have good news for you. In about 10 years, you get to sprint again.
And that's part of it too. Yeah, I know I'll be back there. I'll never retire, kind of a thing. It's that choice of like, I choose when I want to work. I have a vision, right, of like what's success for me. And I literally visions of like, I think I love to travel. I would love to be able to go to Greece for like, one of the islands, rent out a place for 3 months, the summer months, and just come back home, and I have more money in my account than when I left in there. And then if I want to work, if I just find that because I love looking at real estate, I love putting deals together, I love talking with investors and being a lender, then I get to.
I can almost guarantee you would own a building in Greece by the time that summer was over.
You'd buy a motel on 30.
All the coffee shops that he's working in, he's trying to buy them. Hey, this is a good seat. Can I buy your building?
Trevor would be trying to figure out how to buy a whole island. That's your sprint.
Yeah, I don't have those, so I gave up on those. Like, I know it sounds bad, but I kind of gave up on the billionaire aspirations or the 100 million or the private jet aspirations, just because I don't want to pay the price for it. I don't want to pay the time price for it.
It's a trade-off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So you were raising money from these people, though, and then you were scared you were going to lose it, so you wanted to use it.
Yeah. So
Where'd that take
we
you?
bought these. It's really funny. So the first one was the lake house. That lake house came up, and our friends from California, who we've known since
The 37-acre lake house?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the nice parts about being a lender is like your lending company will typically they like to lend to you because they know where your paycheck comes from. They know if you don't, pay. And I was working for a guy at the time that was also an investor over at when Riverbend was a company before they sold to Corvest. And we were going to do this deal. And so I brought it to him. He had a fund that I knew would take the paper. Because normally that's not a great, 37 acres. That's not hard money loans, like regular hard money loans. And I was like, hey, we're doing this deal. I've got a partner on it. He goes, the only way I'm doing that loan is if I get to be a part of it. So he bought in, kicked out my partners. So then that's how we found the motel
They
in
moved
Rockaway
this
Beach.
closer to you again.
Yeah, I felt like we had to move that money quickly, which is why we bought that motel with our other partners. So the lake house was actually an additional, we weren't expecting to have that project or have the motel because we thought that money was going to be dedicated to the lake house. So real quick, the portfolio, if you want a quick overview of it. So we've got starting over on the Sandy River, right? Because everything's always going to be on some kind of water for the most part. So we have a house in Sandy, right in Sandy on Bluff Road. That's got a great view of the water and of Mount Hood. Insane. And that's a 5-bedroom. That one does insanely well. You know, I think our numbers on it are, we're into it for 500. I think our loan amount's like 430 at 4.7% interest 30-year, and it brings in like 120,000, 130,000, and we manage it all ourselves. We have another one up in Marmot that is also on the Sandy River. That one doesn't quite do as well. It kind of breaks even. I think our loan on it's like 600 or so. That we bought that one a little bit later, and I think it does about 60,000 a year. So kind of the 1% roll. And we also now manage it instead of iTrips managing it. And then we have the one in Troutdale. This one's another like killer game changer. It's like right near in Troutdale, like right near all the downtown Troutdale stuff as well. And that one we ended up buying for $730. We put about 170 into it, so we're into it for about 900. And I just recently did a DSCR loan on it for 7.75%, which is not fun, but I think this year last year it did about 139,000. This year we're already at 145,000.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I think it's going to do about 160. I know it's going to do more than 150, but I think it'll probably do 160. I think we had 3 random like Tuesdays not booked between June 1st and August 30th. Yeah.
Is that when the bulk of your income comes in the summer usually?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And especially at the Oregon coast. The coast, we get 75% of our income from June 1st to the end of September. So can make for some real scary like Decembers and
yeah, you got to save that money for the other months.
So those are the ones we have here, like real close. And then we have a couple of them at the beach. So Pacific City, we had 3. Remember, I gave the other one to my partner, the one that was on the beach to my partner. We have the 6-bedroom, the very first one we ever got, which that one does great. It's property managed, so that one does about 100,000 a year or so, and we've got I think we refinanced that one, pulled a bunch of cash out of it, which sucks, and felt like we pissed it away in the motels that we have, unfortunately. But we have a $600,000 mortgage on that one, about $8,000 a year in taxes that we pay because it's a big property, but it definitely pays for itself. It probably just doesn't bring in a ton of revenue, maybe like 10 or 12,000 kind of is the profit on it. And then we have the lake house, which that one's like a love. That one's got so much potential for sure. Could be like on its own. As we were talking during the break here, like, what could we do? It's almost unlimited, what we could do. It's just a matter of having the time to be able to do it and figuring out if that's the way to go with doing it. So that one, we bought it for 1.4. We put about 200 into it so far. We could probably put another 100, 150 to really redo the bottom level in it. And by the way, like furnishing these huge houses, it's like 45 grand.
So if you have a 2,800 square foot home you're doing with medium furnishing, it's 4-bed, 3-bath. What would you estimate that cost to furnish?
You have to have a hot tub. Because 50% of people
let's assume you don't have a hot tub.
I can't even assume that. I'm telling you right now, if you do not have a hot tub, 50% of your people that are searching will search you out. Same thing with and this. Sorry, Mike. I'm not an animal lover. I flip too many properties to see what animals do to house value, but people with dogs and weirdly cats have disposable income, and those are like the two things that if you don't take animals and you don't take or you don't have a hot tub, you're gonna get half the income that you could get.
Is it like a price per square foot furnishing cost you look at when you look at that? Or?
No, Trevor.
I'm just asking because we had a manager who we gave our credit card to, and then they spin it. So I'm wondering how much.
Well, it's going to be. It's how many rooms. Yeah, it's how many kitchens, how many baths, how many living rooms, how many bedrooms.
Your bedrooms are the big expenses because beds, and then you have to have like 2 to 3 sheet sets for each.
But a big house is 40 grand.
Yeah, big house is 40 grand. 4 or 5 bedroom house is 40 grand.
Our little 2 bedrooms right now are like 8 grand, 8 to 10 grand.
Yeah, and you can get away with a lot less with it too on the smaller houses because you don't have 2 living rooms to furnish. And then the art, oh my gosh, the decorations and the art and the pillows, it's insane. It drives me nuts. I could spend 8 to 10 grand just on like art and decorations and all that stuff.
That's more than my total possessions.
And that probably brings in the most value because you're creating the culture.
It does. So people
Not counting real estate.
Not counting real estate.
people in short term, this is what separates you, is like the house is the experience now.
Mhm.
People aren't just going to like, oh, we're going here because we're going to do all the different activities. If you really want to stand out and you want to be a top 5% Airbnb, your house now has to be the experience. So so like one of the houses we have now, we just actually started renting, and I'm going to head down there to just finalize the hot tub and everything because we have our first guest checking in tomorrow. It's a 6-bedroom, 4-bath. So that's a big one, is heads on beds. It's it's got 3,000 feet of Horse Creek River frontage. That's 200 meters from the actual Mackenzie River. In fact, our neighbor next to us is Mackenzie River rafting company. So they're super excited to like have us next to them.
Nice.
And we have a pond, like a really cool, cute pond on our site that we're going to like stock with some trout, and so we're actually going to we have a plan to during the fall and the winter to cut trails. And we thought it would be so cool to have like a trail like 5 different trails for that are loops, throughout the property, because it's 7 acres and it's on, BML land is like 110 acres after that. And so it's thinking about it in that terms, like, everyone wants to like show off their vacations, their Instagrams.
This sounds awesome. I thought we were talking about failures.
What
are we doing right now?
Well, I mean, yeah. So
this is
You just told me I
this
made
is a
this
new
much-
one.
this
He's
much-
learned his lesson. This
Yeah.
is Dane post lessons.
So you were talking about this money that you were borrowing that you didn't want to waste.
yes.
Got into too many
Okay,
deals.
so this is really I could boil this down to the ones that, now that I finally have all the data together. First of all, I just didn't have the data together, on it. I was just throwing money at it. I was really into the hard money lending because that was providing the income to dump into this. And so now that we've finally seen the numbers, we have the data to make the right decision. So that's a huge part, is like always make sure you're caught up on your data.
Know your numbers.
Gosh, it's like almost embarrassing. A lot of this will be embarrassing. I'll let a lot of Trevor's just got the weird.
It's
fucking
only embarrassing if you don't look at it as the lens of a lesson.
Right. And so the 2 hotels were just, I wish I never would have done those. I would be in such a different position, and if we never would have done those, because
Do you know why?
I know exactly why.
You can't create an experience at a hotel.
And that's a big part too. It's still, the numbers on it are still decent. They're just not great.
Mhm.
But the effort that it took to renovate them, and the because you're 2 hours away, you've got the logistics are 3 times as hard, because you've got a workforce that you have to transfer in, especially on a big project like that. Our 4-plex that we had, we could just, it was super easy. We could have a husband and wife team that were down there for 6 months. It was easy to set them up, and they were great. For the motels, we had to hire 6, 7 guys, put them in hotels. They went home, then come back and put them in hotels every single time until our hotels were decent enough or had enough furniture in them. It was like, I remember $80,000 was the labor price.
How many of those individual hotel units are required to match the revenue from just one house?
Let's see. So the 10-unit motel, I think, is going to do about $170,000, maybe $160,000.
So what's
two houses?
No, less than that. 120 divided by 170.
1.5.
Yeah, even less than that.
I mean, my Troutdale property is going
Yeah.
to do about
So that one house will do about 8 of those units.
Yeah.
But 8 of those units was probably 20 times the operational push to get going and occupied and stabilized in that one house.
Absolutely.
So it's not even the 80-20 rule.
Uh-uh.
It's like the 90-10.
So you're not going to buy any more motels.
No. In fact, we're probably actively looking to sell at
You
least the one on the beach.
Yeah.
My partners want out of it.
Will you carry a contract?
You should
I don't think I
convert-
can. So going back to your question that you had that I never answered was, they're hard to finance.
Guy in his whole buy all the real
Well,
estate.
can we come turn it into apartments? This is your 10-unit you were talking
It
about?
would not be the best and highest use
because there's
for it.
no stove. You were saying, can we just
Yeah.
come plug in an electric stovetop?
Yeah,
and
they'll-
call it
if
good?
You want
They'll
if you-
shit in a porta potty. You can
Yeah.
just put like a
Yeah,
little,
you think
put a
that-
microwave
that
in there. You're
quality
good.
of tenant in there, yes, for sure. And all the
Here's a
brand
free
new stuff
toaster
that's
oven.
in there, it'll be unbrand new in about 6 months. And then you'll have half of them not paying.
So what he's really telling you is, yes, I can sell or finance, but no, I don't want to hold a note on that asset.
I can't. I've got hard money on both of them still. So they take 2 full years of income. No one wants to finance hotels right now. You know, it takes 2 full years. We're finally getting it. After this summer, we'll have 2 full years on both of them. But here's what you have to imagine. It took us 2 years to fix it, hard money there, and then 2 years of hard money while we're
Stabilizing.
While we're 4
So
years
the
of hard money.
Business model is exactly the same as your houses.
Mm-hmm.
The houses are significantly less cost. The houses provide more income per unit. The houses are significantly less work to get up and running. The houses finance significantly easier than the hotel does.
Yeah.
So, again, the real estate needs to match the business model,
Absolutely.
and the business model needs to create an experience.
Mm-hmm.
How does this put you into Greece for 3 months?
It doesn't, and they need to go. They need to go.
I mean, you talked about building wealth in the last episode, and I'm still trying to envision this. So I always think of things in now money and tomorrow money. You went to solve a problem, replace your income. I don't want to teach gangbangers anymore, and now I need to go
Actually
do
liked
something
the
else.
gangbangers. Weirdly enough, I taught at like a higher performing school my last 2 years. I couldn't handle their like the parents there and the oh my god.
But it didn't pay enough.
But no,
to risk it.
either of them didn't.
It probably grew you more as a human being.
So you'd mentioned I don't know if we discussed this in the last episode or if we were off the air, but you talked a little bit about how passive income is sort of a myth. Like people think that you're going to go buy buildings or buy businesses, and then you're going to have this money that just sort of rolls in. And what I'm hearing is you have that same dream that we all do to create an income stream that doesn't require us to babysit it all day long. Is short-term rental one of the ways to do that?
I think you could if you have the right, and we finally are getting to the right mentality for it. Systems. You live and die by your systems. And if you are lazy and refuse to accept that you are as good as your systems are, you will pay the price for it. And that's what we're looking.
In the other ring, like, so what have we heard you say? Vacasa, iTrips, we manage this one on our own. And ultimately what you got down to, and you can even just do the math on this, right? Property management's 25 to 30%. Okay, great. You can make 150% revenue than you could as just a long-term rental, but you're only getting 70% of that. And you're paying all the utilities, and the maintenance may be more, maybe, right? So it's just the math behind it. And ultimately what you found is you make more money running the business, being the management company, than you do the real estate holder.
Yeah. And it's fine if all the real estate's making money. Like we could have been fine on those first 3 properties, doing it, and we still would have made money on it and would have paid down the rent. We weren't going to like retire in Greece on that kind of money. But if we create a property management company on the real estate that we currently own, which is about $13 million right now on of the real estate that we own, we have about $8.5 million of debt on it. Then we have business debt of almost $1 million of kind of friends and family money. And then I also have about $1 million of my own cash, in this that I'd somehow like to get out at someday. It's like you can see the swing can happen really quickly. Like just properties going up by 10%, all of a sudden our equity's huge. Or like, we've got 1.2 million in revenue coming in that now we're not paying $300,000 in property management. We're able to keep like 200 of it, kind of a thing. And those are the systems that we're trying to implement. Some of them are even as simple as like hotels. Think about who rents hotels. We're only advertising on Airbnb. We don't even have a Google listing. Like think about if you were going to you're just driving through Rockaway Beach and you're like, oh man, let's just stay here. Am I going to jump on Airbnb if it's just me and a wife or something like that? I'm probably going to go to hotels.com, or I'm probably just going to look at Google Maps and see which hotels are there. And then I want to book through like either call a number or book through a website. For that, we don't even have that. Like, so how much revenue are we missing out on that? We don't even have a sign. Our motel is right on the 101. We don't have a sign for it. And it's just like, these are the embarrassing things.
No. This is the beauty because you have so much more value that you can tap into.
Right.
For me, I watched the queen bee of Airbnbs do this in Nashville, Tennessee. So her story of how she bought an entire building in the middle of Nashville, created this whole model. The biggest thing I learned from her is you have to get off of the platform. Airbnb will kill you at the end of the day. You need to do everything you can to get all the momentum that you can, to get all the branding that you can, to then have people find you on your own platform.
Absolutely. So that's actually our next step is we're going to have, so there's these, like, I don't know, they're screens that you can have. We're going to get them on all of our properties. We're going to create one landing site web page that's Pacific Northwest Hospitality.
Yep.
And we're going to be like, hey, did you like this? Check out our other places. Next time, book directly through us and avoid your 7% Airbnb fee. And really get it to like, hey, let us know that you booked this house within a year. We'll give you 10% off of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also, you get a lot more control of it. And the other thing we found out, we have a manager now that we've hired for our 3 properties, and just having someone dedicate, like I jokingly say this, sometimes people that are looking for an Airbnb are looking for a friend more than they're looking for a place to stay. And they're like messaging you like, what's your favorite restaurant? What kind of hikes can we do? Do you know how far away this is from McMiniman's Edgefields? Like, freaking Google, like I'm not the person that, I don't have the patience to be on there, but like our reviews all of a sudden picked up because my chatty Cathy of a manager, he loves talking to people, and I've gotten twice as many 5-star reviews.
Is this Brandon?
Yes.
So
I love this.
with the financing portion, because you were saying it's hard to exit and finance them, can't you just use SBA loans on all these because they are businesses and they'll include real estate with it?
You could. SBA doesn't like they don't like a real estate company, which is actually why the new entity that me and my partner are in, Pacific Northwest Hospitality, not Rhapsody Real Estate. They don't like that word real estate in there. And so, yes, you can, but again, it's a time thing. Like, you have to have enough time, and our numbers, our QuickBook numbers do not look great for the last 2 years because of some of the bad properties and everything.
Okay.
That's where what you probably should do is create your hospitality company and suck all of the passive income out of the real estate and keep it in the business.
But that's way higher on taxes, correct?
Well, it depends on how you expense it at. There's yes.
They would just carry over.
Yeah,
Like, one
you're right.
business to one
You have
business,
an
they can
exactly
offset.
wash
You're a
it
real
the
estate
other.
professional.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounded like you were starting out this conversation saying it was a problem that you took in all this money from all these investors and people. Why was that a problem?
You kind of become a slave to that, right? So they're the passive investors, and you have to account for them. You have to have conversations that are not fun when you're not making profit or you're not distributing profit. And, you're explaining to someone why costs have gone up, and then you're also explaining your mess ups, like you're trying to own up to those too. So that's not fun. And then always having to it takes like an hour for me to put together a presentation for them so that they can understand it. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I just want to focus on the problem and solving the problem. I'd rather not,
I love AJ Osborne's conversation about private lenders, and they had it on the Drunk Real Estate recently, but your job is to put them in their place. Literally, your job is to put them in the place. And if it means that, hey, these things aren't going well and we're stopping distributions and you don't like that, I'm sorry. But my job is to make sure that this business plan works, and stopping distributions is the key element to making this business plan work. Guess what? I'm stopping your distributions. You may not like that, but it's what's best for you. And you have to be able to have those conversations.
And I think a big part is setting expectations at the beginning.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you just don't know what you think you're untouchable. You think you're this. I mean, it's the same thing with like I thank God my partner's so awesome, and we're like best friends. He was very cool. Our exit is actually very nice, and we're still friends and everything. We had no written agreement. How dumb was that? So stupid. And me and my new partner, dude, we've been working on our operating agreement for 3 months now. We still haven't quite, we've got the foundation. We're about ready to sign it and everything and move and do everything. But it took 3 months for us to go through every scenario. I wanted to make sure we came to, it's just like, it's a marriage, good communication set, fights happen from unmet expectations.
Yeah.
Isn't there a saying about how good contracts help maintain good friendships or something? There's something along those lines. Like, there's a reason we put it in writing.
Yeah.
So that when there is a problem, we know what to do. We go back and we say, well, we agreed to this.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I'm just operating off of what we talked about. Do we need to make a change to it? Because
but when you have a bad partner, they just disregard that whole thing.
Well, it sounds like you didn't have a bad partner. You guys just kind of grew apart and ended up going different directions.
Correct. And even I still have 2 other partners on just deal by deal kind of thing. And they're all really great too. A lot of that is me, you end up taking the brunt of most of it. You kind of shield them, like, I've put in all the money, right? So I just want to make sure I can get that back. But
Dane's like the best real estate partner. I'll weather all your problems, I'll do all the work, and I'll put all the money in.
I'm realizing that's probably
So
the
if
best.
you were to go back, would you not borrow that money again?
No, not at all. I would have been so much better off to not take on those projects and not borrow that money.
So was it the projects that were the problem, or because you borrowed the money?
They exacerbate it, just like leverage does. When something's going well, leverage makes it go even better. When it's going wrong, it makes it go even worse. And that's, I think, like, anyone who's listening to this that's kind of in the newer realm, I highly, highly recommend to you just take it one project at a time. Build this wealth slowly, only until you feel like you absolutely know everything. And you don't. You're going to make mistakes. Be ready for it. But that's when I would start to, like, think about leverage.
You made a very interesting comment when you talked about your 11-person team. It feels like you almost went out and borrowed the money to do projects to keep your team rolling. You were coming from a position of weakness, not a position of strength. So you did deals for the wrong reason, potentially.
Oh, that's exactly.
Your judgment was clouded by the fact that not only did you want to make money, you also wanted to keep your crews rolling so that you didn't lose your team.
And
right?
there's magic in that too. Like I drove through Portland with a huge property owner, property manager, new construction, existing buildings, and we're just driving through our construction projects, and we're then seeing his construction projects, and he's talking about when times were really tough, I kept these guys around. And so there is this double-edged sword, but you have to know the magic behind it. You have to create it. But so when he was then now building his next wave of apartments, he built them at a cost that no one else could build them at, purely because he took losses to keep guys around during the hard times.
And there's a new loyalty that those guys come with.
And they're the right people that you could get that loyalty.
Hopefully, you would hope,
Yeah.
right? I mean, a lot of contractors talk about that, how I
Right.
took care of my subs, I took care of my people during the down times, and now we come out and I get special treatment because of that.
And I think, Trevor, to your point on why I think you've been so successful, I know you get teased about it on here, is like you've got just this like laser-like, kind of focus.
Oh, it's not teasing, it's jealousy.
Yeah, it is. Like, all of my problems can be traced back to being unintentional. If I was more intentional and actually took the time to think about and stop instead of just kind of making movements, and there can be the opposite, right? We all joke about the tire kickers, on bigger pockets, on 95% of people don't actually do anything. That's a problem too. But if you start to do stuff without fully realizing what you're into, especially when you've been as experienced as I am, like I knew what I didn't know, and I should have researched that more. And I think it was making some moves, thinking that we were untouchable, thinking that it would all work out in the end without actually doing the work beforehand, is probably why I started in this position.
Would you say that's because of ego or shiny object syndrome? Like what was inside you?
A little bit of both. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. There was their ego of like, no one can touch me. I'm the best Airbnb person in the world. Like everyone looks up to me for how many Airbnbs we have and the type of Airbnbs we have. And it really was just no one had the types of relationships for the funding of the Airbnbs that I could get, And that's what was really my competitive advantage. I didn't realize that was it, not the actual execution of the plan.
You know how to find the money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
And then you used it on the wrong asset.
Right.
Yeah, you just moved. You stayed in Airbnb, but you moved slightly outside the asset type of single-family homes, and that was
Well,
where
and
your
he
other deals
he didn't have the data set. He didn't understand the
I
business.
thought I was working slightly. I realized I'm majorly out of it.
Yeah. So you said you solved this problem by bringing in a new partner or something, right? Or you worked up a plan and you're fixing this?
We have a plan,
'Kay.
right? So now it's executing on that plan. So I brought in another partner. He bought into our portfolio. He knows right now he's buying into non-cash flow. It's funny because he like owns a bunch of bars and restaurants that it's so funny when you evaluate those, right? You buy them for 3 times what you're actually going to earn and take away from those. And I was kind of just like, why do you want to get into this? You could go buy a bar and restaurant for $600,000 and you'll literally add $200,000 a year into your pocket. Kind of a thing. And he wants to diversify. He likes a different challenge, kind of a thing. And he's a very good operator. And he's very like mentally, like already he's paying dividends of just like our mental clarity. We both like coming together. This is the other thing. My other partner hated to like sit down and come up with a plan and like look on it. I love whiteboards, man. I could geek out on white. It helps me clarify everything. And that's what's been the biggest difference is like we've identified the problems, the properties that are the problems. and then 3 different things that we're going to execute on those problems. And now we have the cash to be able to where it's like, I know I'm not going to have to stroke a check, for $30,000 in January.
So what's he bringing into your partnership? So then he's bringing in some liquidity, which creates peace of mind, and then operational planning.
Planning, right?
Okay, planning. So you've created 3. These are the next to-dos. You have timelines oriented around those steps that you're going to take.
Yet.
Okay.
So the way out is, I'm assuming you're trying to increase revenue. You're investing more dollars, increasing revenue, and then you have a higher value and you can refinance out.
And paying off some debt too. Like we had some credit cards that were going for quite a while because we thought we were going to sell the Mackenzie Bridge property, but we actually then ended up taking it on, which we thought we'd pay off a couple credit cards with it, so we didn't. So paying off some of those, and then our big plan too. We still have about $700,000 of like friends and family money that I'm paying 9% interest on, and really our portfolio almost breaks even. It's that part of it that's like now draining us, and so we're kind of like debt snowballing.
So are you coming in, bringing him in to make the motels operate better, or what is like the actual plan you're thinking to?
Yeah, so the motels are one aspect of it, and then we're slowly like taking over management because that's the easiest, right?
Okay.
If that in one fell swoop, right? If we're losing on the portfolio, let's say between all the debt on it and all the management and everything, we're $128,000 in the red. In one action, I can swing that $100,000 or $300,000. Right, or probably
minus less the cost to
minus
do it.
the cost to do it. So probably 200. So we immediately become profitable, not even just break even, but profitable. That's actually not even taking into account our debt pay down that we're now at, because every house now is on a 30-year mortgage. It's just the 2 motels, which once those get on 7% interest loans from the 12% interest loans, like those, that's a huge, that's $100,000 a year savings right there. And so there's lots of like solutions that we can put into place. We can increase revenue with the motels by doing some of this, like getting a sign out there. And now that we have the liquidity, it doesn't hurt to do that. We can just make that decision instead of,
You're
like
making good decisions instead of fearful and necessary decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm like super excited about it now, right? Maybe 3 weeks ago, I was talking with Mike about it 3 weeks ago, and I was worried my investor was going to pull out because we lost a cleaner and just hell broke loose, in July when you lose your main cleaner of the properties that we manage. Oh my gosh, it was a mess, but we got that all fixed and figured out, and he kind of wanted to come back. So.
Okay. So you're going to right the ship with him, and then are you going to keep expanding and buying more Airbnb?
Oh, I cannot. He's like, this is where it's good to have someone with positivity, right? To be around. Mike and I were kind of
and he is
this.
that guy. Yeah.
He's smart. Like it's not blind. But he's got so much positivity, it's infectious. It's like I've been around, both me and my partner were both just so negative for so long and just kept feeling like we kept getting beaten down. And that's why we kind of pulled further and further apart.
He doesn't have all the other real estate scars that you have.
Right. For better or worse, kind of a thing. So it's definitely me kind of like bringing him in. There's going to be probably a year-long curve for him to like catch up with stuff. But that's okay. I'm okay with that because everything else seems to work out. And I thought like he's definitely, when things change and if the portfolio increases, like what's the worst thing? Our portfolio increases by $3 million and now his 500,000 or whatever it is, turns into, 1.5 or $2 million. And then mine, I get all my money back. Plus now I've got another million. Like that's I'm completely fine.
Well, now you're operationally stable on long-term fixed-rate debt, and that gets a lot easier to operate as years go on, assuming regulations don't change and whatnot.
Yeah, and he's smart enough to like also look at it like you've got the real estate value and then the business value, right? The more systems we create in place, if I ever wanted to sell this now we're at like, you got a $13 to $15 million portfolio that's bringing in, let's say $1.6 million. Like now you get a different it's like the difference between selling a 20 unit or 30 unit multifamily and selling a 100 unit or 200 unit. Institutional investors, the cap rates on those are way lower than on a 20 to 30. There's institutional investors. If you have your systems in place and it's plug and play, like, so one of the things, the systems that we brought in that I was so frustrated that we didn't have is just like, we now have itemized all of our materials in our houses and we have it there. It's all from Amazon. Okay. I'm buying Jeff Bezos his 3rd yacht and I love him for that. I'll buy him his 4th and it's completely fine by me because I can click on a link. If something breaks, I can click on a link and it's to the house in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
and we know exactly what it was, what bedroom it was in, and it's right there in front of our face. It takes 5 seconds to order and replace. And those are that is one of just many systems that's
scalable and that is valuable.
Yeah.
With this 10 unit you're thinking about selling, how much would you sell it for?
This is where I have no idea. I don't know what people are willing to pay for these types of things, right? And then
what are you willing
also
to take for it?
I would say so I've got two of them, right? I got a 12 unit that's on the beach, and then I got a 10 unit that's off the beach. And really the 10 unit and the 4 unit would go together.
Can you condoize them and sell them as fractional ownership? So you could probably sell those for like 10, 20 grand.
Maybe the one on the beach, maybe, because those ones actually have kitchens for the most part. And we added units when we bought it for 1.3 million for the one on the beach. Like, we added 2 more units too.
But do you so you condoize it, so you split up ownership, and then you fractionally sell those individual ownerships.
Yeah.
So that 10 unit
You
can
time
be
shares.
what's 10 times 80. So you can sell 80 fractional ownerships.
Wow. I don't know. See, and that's like almost too complicated for me to.
Yeah, it kind of sounds fun though, doesn't it?
No.
And then you still manage it, so you don't lose any of the business value. I'm sorry, I'll stop.
But the 10 unit, you said they're good sized units, like 2-bed units.
Yeah, they're most of them. I think we only have 2. What are they?
1 bed or studios.
Or studios, yeah.
Okay.
And then I think like 6 of them are 2 bedrooms, or 4 of them are 2 bedrooms, and the other 4 are 1 bedrooms.
Okay, and these are like 600 to 800 square feet.
Yeah, about 600.
And there's a full kitchen, no stove though.
no stove. Yeah.
How much would it cost to add in stoves after the fact? You said on the front end 110. Could you go back for 110 right now and add those in?
I mean, maybe, yeah. Because you'd have to like run new wires for it. You'd have to run new panels, right? Because all those take 30 amps
Okay.
to run them. That was the big thing, is like running that much amperage up to there.
And what city was this in?
Rockaway Beach. But again, I don't want to manage month-to-month tenants in Rockaway.
I would love to manage.
No, dude,
tenants
I've
in
solved your
Rockaway Beach.
problem if you would just listen to me. 80 fractional ownership.
That's the
pieces of
beachfront.
50
property.
grand a pop. That's $4 million for a $1.1 million asset.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think I would
20
sell
grand
it.
a pop.
You probably
like
need the
2.2.
beachfront for that.
So the
Yeah.
beachfront
Did
and
you
the
say need to be drunk for that?
Beachfront.
beachfront.
Oh, beachfront.
Yeah.
The
And be
beach-
drunk. That helped too.
The beachfront one, it'll be interesting to see what it actually ends up. I haven't even looked at the income.
Scoot a
that's
little closer
done
again to the.
this. I haven't even looked at
sell
the.
that. It's $20,000 for frac. Like, you could just go sell that internationally.
Maybe, but it's also Rockaway Beach. Like, Rockaway Beach is a C+ level.
Oh, everybody
sounds
loves
like you need to
Rockaway.
go-
Show a photo of those rocks.
You and me.
One of my lenders has award-winning photography out there. You just throw that on your listing.
Sounds like you are the partner they need, and you
Yes.
should go write them up a report and how
Absolutely.
much money they can make, and there you go.
I just bought into your business.
You're saying you would sell the 10 unit for what years?
Probably 1.5. Maybe if you like,
No,
if you got me
2.2 for
cash,
fractional owner.
maybe like 1.4.
How much debt do you have on it?
So remember, it's hard money debt.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think we have $926,000 of hard money debt on it. And then my partner, well, we're into it more than that. Like, my own cash is into it. I'd say our break evens maybe like 1.2 into that.
This is one of my favorite things about real estate. So you've built a business with a real estate component to it. Real estate is so forgiving. So businesses come and go, operators screw up, you have good systems, you have bad systems, and all these things. But because you have a real estate component, you can go out and do a bunch of stupid stuff. And as long as you don't lose the buildings, you've got a way out. There's
Keeps the
light
business
at the end of
alive.
the tunnel.
Yeah.
Time is
Absolutely.
the equalizer for everything. And so there's that. But then there's also, I've thought about, like, by not selling, like, let's say the one on the beach is probably the one that I have the most cash in.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we have a $1.3 million loan. I owe my other investors about $300 from it, and then I have $600,000 into it of my own cash. So like, our break even on that thing's like 2.3, which it maybe is worth that right now. I have no idea. I literally have no idea what it's worth on there. It's 12 units. I think it's gonna do about $250,000 to $275,000
And
this
those
year.
could be long-term rentals too.
Though some of them, most of them. There's like 2 or 3 studios.
You
that
wouldn't
don't
hit
have
those
kitchens.
numbers on,
No, yeah.
on long term.
No, not those numbers.
So
That's the biggest problem with perm debt is I think a lot of underwriters or buyers will look at it and go, well, if we lose short term or some of the short term or they move out, we go long term, everybody wants to value it on a long term valuation and your income, your net income may not be that far off, but definitely from a gross income, I've seen some smallplex where, 2 units are short term, 2 units are long term, and they want to value it based on the rent roll, but you can't because everybody takes those 2 units that are short term and they dial them back to what a long term rent would be. And so then it's like, okay, but now we've got furniture and that adds a little bit of value or whatever the case. Trevor and I bought a house in Salem, probably one of the places you would never imagine buying a short-term rental. And it was a big house in Northeast Salem. And we brought in quite a bit, like more. I think it kind of surprised us.
$6,000 to $7,000 a month. On the low end, 3. On the higher end, like $6,000 to $7,000 a month.
But we found that renting it out
long term was better.
We rented midterm, right? We did like a 6 month or something.
We did like a 6 month.
Partially furnished midterm brought us almost the same net,
but less headache,
and a lot less headache than running it short term. So that's what we ended up selling that house and getting out of it. But it was our dipping our toe in the water to see, like, can you make a lot more money doing this? And I think that if you're really, like you said, you have systems, you're a strong operator, and you have the right property, you can make a lot more money.
It's one of my favorite things that I get to be as a hard money lender. It's just the synergy between being an investor and a loan originator it's insane. It almost feels like cheating because I've got probably 110 clients between most of them in the I-5 corridor, Washington, California, but also some in like Florida and Texas. And I get to go to conferences for free and do all that stuff and meet people. I get to see the deepest financials of every single person. I get to know what they're doing and seeing if they're successful or if they're not. And it's so eye-opening. Like even some stuff like you never know. There was a guy that did a loan with me down in Medford and has an Airbnb, bought like cookie cutter in a subdivision, 3,400 square foot lot, but a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, 2007 build, nothing spectacular about it. It's next to or like walking distance to a big sports complex down there. Does $120,000 a year.
Yeah.
Just stupid like that. Like those are the things that you like. It's hard to.
You probably have more insight to the marketplace than anyone because of what you're seeing on the front end. You're seeing loans go into default before anyone knows. You're seeing the deals that people are buying. Like when I kept my appraisal business open for probably 2 or 3 years longer, purely because all I did from appraisal work was spec construction loans. And so I would see what the builders are buying for their dirt. I'd see what their costs are. I'd see how much they're making. And then when you see how much they're making, you can see how much more they can pay for land. Mm-hmm. And so you see the runway for land value before it's actually happening. And you see that in your business.
100%.
Do you think with your 10 unit, you would sell it for 1.4, carry back 200, pay off that 900 loan and cash out 300, and that would make sense for your situation?
Sure. But would you want a hard money loan on that?
No.
But perm finance.
You would be able to get perm debt.
I would want to convert it to long-term rental, go see what it costs to get that going long-term.
I would say even better because I've got a different partner on that one that he wants to see what's going on. He's also the same partner on Bluff Road and the Fourplex, which those ones are cash cows, so they easily pay for whatever difference that the 10.
Do you really want to own this asset, or are you?
I want to own all the assets.
How do you get perm before an asset is stabilized?
So you would have to come in right now, bring in some cash to figure it. We'd have to restructure partnership and do a few things on the front end, but we'd have to come in, convert it to long term.
I mean, we now have 2 full years in QuickBooks of all the data and all the income. We've done all that.
Yeah,
work now,
I'm more attracted to that in term and long term than short term.
But I think the better
your wheelhouse
is the beachfront ones because it's 2 lots. There's extra. I mean, actually, there's more ability to develop both lots. Like more.
Oh, there's land there that you can.
Yeah, there's extra. Like we could put like 3 or 4 more units on the 10 unit, right there. We actually kind of.
How much extra land is it?
I don't know how much, but it's commercial, so you can
legally you can. Physically, can you? Feasibly, can.
Yeah, you could. It's got a cool little horseshoe. We actually and parking.
You don't have environmental issues.
Who knows? It's like the thing about Rockaway Beach, it's all a swamp, essentially. Like the water line just comes all the way up to everything. But it's the coast, building at the coast is a lot easier than building around here. Like working with Tillamook County is way easier than Multnomah.
Whoa. Let's add some fucking context because that's true and not true. Permitting.
Yes.
Entitling is significantly easier at the coast. Physically building is different.
Yes.
And I would say entitling the right piece of property is easy at the coast.
But you now own the motel that you build during October through February that isn't really bringing
to then have people housing. I get that, but if you have the wrong piece of property, you just cannot get it entitled.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, owner, you'd have to look into that as well for it. But the beachfront one seems like more interesting just because, again, it's beachfront and I want to sell.
On your single family, is there a reason why you didn't go into perm right out of the gate? Why you used hard money on those?
We did value adds on all of them.
Okay, so they're a bridge loan essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and they had money baked in there for your construction costs.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Just get better leverage.
do you qualify conventionally, or is it hard for you to do conventional with? It's just a pain in the ass, I'm assuming.
Now it is because I've already the conventional loans that I've taken out based on my lending income.
Oh, you've hit the 10.
I've hit the DTI.
Oh, the DTI.
Yeah.
So those are interesting because you can do rehab loans with 15% down baked into the rehab with a conventional loan.
I know, but I can do
Which is
100%
finance.
financing.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds cooler to me too. Never mind.
So these are fully levered. I mean, you're cash flowing on fully levered deals.
Until he had to
For-
put his own cash in.
Until you had
Some,
to throw
until
Yeah.
it's really like baked down to
He's a leverage buyer, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure.
Well, he's
That's
a
how I
basis
grew up.
buyer. He's a basis buyer that allows him to be a leverage buyer.
So if somebody's listening to this and they want to go do Airbnb, they could call Dane Fitch at Legacy Lending, and you could help walk them through the underwrite on this. Is there a way for them to go borrow hard money to do a value add short term play?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's what about 90% of my day is. I mean, since we've been here, I've had
Everybody
13 text messages and
everybody
6
wants
phone
money.
calls.
You're the money guy.
Well, it's really a discussion. They want to talk to me about it. So they want to 15 minutes is what they do. They're like, "Hey, Dane, I'm thinking about like buying. Pull up this address. Here's what I want to do with this. What do you think, both from like a lending point of view and also an investor point of view?" And I think that's like where the hard money, because I have other hard money lenders I use too. I think everyone should have multiple lenders. But the ones that I like the most are investors. Like I want to know from both your perspectives. And then I also want to know that you're like thinking ahead of what could go wrong with the loan from the investor point of view, not 3 days before we're going to close, which is why I switched hard money lenders all the time. Because I couldn't stand being a part of those bigger hard money lending companies that would kill your deal or make you put down an extra 5 or 10% because the 24-year-old, that's looking at their check sheet doesn't know anything. They can't foresee the problems that are happening. And then what really made me like jump over to Legacies, I'm their only originator. So I underwrite all the deals. And then as long as they're under $1 million, it's when we talk for that 15 minutes, if I say we're going to fund it, I don't think I've not funded a deal in 18
So
months.
does that
I've
mean
worked
my
there.
care facility is going to be $999,999.99?
No, you've built enough of a rep that
Okay.
like Alan and
They
Rocky
trust
like
me?
you, yeah.
Alan didn't like me on the phone call the other day.
The first deal we ever did though was like that kind of crazy new
New
construction
construction.
at like
Leveraged the
87. I
shit
had
out of
to
it.
essentially like be a co-signer on their loan. I had to like talk them through and go, I know these guys, they're gonna do fine. Trust me, it's worth it to like do. And that's what I love is like it's relationship based line.
And like for the audience, that relationship fucking saved our condo company because it was the largest that we needed to get. We had to get that loan out of default. We had to move it forward. We had to get it on the market. And they did. They took a risk on us. And then what did we do? We went out and we set the market for new attached housing in Portland.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I even had a conversation with Mike. I'm like, Mike, you can't go default on this, or you can't not pay, because I get enough of a leash because I haven't made any loans go default. But as soon as that changes, I'm gonna get a lot more of a leash. I guarantee it.
And he's like, dude, the appraisal's at like 1.8. You're telling me these are going to sell it for $2 million. Are you going to sell this for $2 million? I'm like, Dane, I got you, dude. These will sell for $2 million. Trust me.
And you did.
It did.
I got a couple other condo guys that are hurting
Yeah.
hard, like losing hundreds of thousands of
And that's one
dollars.
reason why I don't necessarily even want to buy a lot of land right now.
But
Is
you
because there's going to be entitled projects.
you have that competitive advantage more than
Fuck
anyone
yeah, I
else
do.
that like condos are selling if they're in the perfect area, and that's where you're just because you can doesn't mean you should is a lot of
That's
There's
great
no
advice.
one that's done it better than us when it
Yeah.
comes to understanding the new code and building the product in the location that will make that business model work.
How humble of you.
Hey, dude, you
gotta
don't
have
have
a
me here
clear
'cause I'm
vision.
humble. I'm just talking facts because there's a lot of people who have built wrong stuff in the wrong
Yeah.
locations, and it's problematic.
All right. Well, we got to take off here in a second. Dane, we'll have you back on to talk hard money because we didn't even get to dive into that at all.
Yeah, I didn't
But-
think we would.
Yeah, you got too many stories to tell.
We're gonna come borrow money from you first, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Yeah, we got to make sure my guys aren't listening to this. I specifically did not tell them that I was coming this morning for a podcast because I remember your guys' story about how you lost lending because one of your lenders was like listening to your podcast.
Oh yeah, we told that story. If you want to hear that story, go back a couple episodes and you'll find it.
We can't tell you what episode because they're all rearranged.
I don't remember which episode. But...
All right, Dane, thanks so much for spending your morning with us. We really appreciate you making the drive and sharing so much wisdom with us and being vulnerable and telling us about some of your more harder times in real estate. But yeah, I sure learned a lot. I hope everybody got a lot out of this. We are the Deal Junkies. We'd love it if you would follow us and share us and tell your mom to listen to us. Moms really like us, I think, for some reason.
They like Mike.
Mike, they think it's funny that he cusses so much. I think
Not much
Probably
today
right.
though.
Don't cuss
He's
anymore.
got such a good disposition today.
He's like
love seeing him.
he's a new man. He plays golf barefoot.
I've been cultured.
All right, we will see you next time.